What is good, everybody? Today, there's something special. I have to go over something very crazy, and just a disclaimer, if you guys have not watched the Miles Morales movie, the new one, I will be posting some scenes from that movie in this video. So if you don't want to get spoiled, don't watch this video, or at least close your eyes. But if you are ready to dive into what I discovered, then get your snacks and dive on into this with me, because this is crazy. And it can potentially be all debunked when the second part come out. So I'm purposely making this before the second movie come out, because it'll just be cool and curious to wonder, would my theory line up with the movie, and you know, if it's true, or I should say, I want to see how true this theory is. So you guys are probably at this point wondering what I'm talking about. This is going over the Spider-Man universe, technically. So with the latest release of the Spider-Man Miles Morales movie, as well as the release of the upcoming Spider-Man 2 trailer, a lot of theories and ideas have been twirling in my mind. You know, it's been just connecting the dots. Like, I have like this own web of destiny that's being developed in my head when I'm watching this movie, and also seeing things in the Spider-Man games. And my theory is that Spider-Man games are connected to the Spiderverse and the MCU universe in terms of predicting the future movies. So what I mean by that is that I feel like the games that we see that are coming out, you know, Spider-Man 2, these are the build-up and setups for the future movies, for mainly Tom Holland, I guess, for his Spider-Verse. And you're probably going to be curious on why I think that, and trust me, I have a lot of explanations that is going to back my point. Now, if I do say some things wrong, I support open speech on this idea. I'm not that much of an MCU nerd, so if there is more details that can help this theory further, please type in your comments below. If there's things I said that aren't really true, please let me know too as well. We may not even have to wait until March to figure out if my theory is debunked, but trust me, guys, I found a lot of things that's connecting this theory to be true. Now I didn't really believe this connection was true, because this main theory revolved around the Spot, and I thought the Spot had an ability to kind of rewind time, but he doesn't. He only can just hop into different multiverses. Just I guess body displacement is his ability amongst the multiverse. You know, he's able to just put people in anywhere he wants, as well as pop up in anywhere he wants. So the Spot is the main reason of why my theory came to be, because the Spot came into existence due to Miles Morales. You know, his tinkering with the multiverse machine caused that overwhelming transformation the old scientists went through, and he blames Miles Morales. You know, he blames the anomaly on why he looks like that. So his main goal for this movie is to make sure his father's death is canon, and he can't do nothing about that. That's like the Spot's main revenge take against Miles Morales. So my whole point originated from this idea, from Miles trying to figure out how is he going to fix this problem his own way, right? He said he's going to do his own thing, and I think his own thing is basically he's going to rewind time. Now, evidence number one, games done this before, especially Spider-Man games. I think the multiverse, or the Spider-Verse, started its roots within the first 2010 game called Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. This game kind of connects the Amazing Spider-Man with Noir and Spider-Man 2099, as well as Ultimate Spider-Man. So this is kind of like the origin of how that Spider-Verse squad kind of came to be. How they became aware of the multiverse, I guess, is where it started in that 2010 game. And then as you see now, we're getting movies, you know, depicting that same connection. So it would make sense that 2010 film was trying to predict the multiverse movie that we're seeing now. Now, going to evidence number two, Miles is an anomaly, right? He was never supposed to become Spider-Man. The spider that came to bit him was called, it came from Earth 42. Remember that there are different multiverses. They label them with numbers to know the differences. So Earth 42, that spider came from another portal that was opened up by that scientist who became the Spot. When it bit Miles, it caused his universe to be like, all right, since you're Spider-Man, your other Spider-Man needs to die, hence Peter Parker. So when he's seen Peter Parker, you know, Kingpin kind of finished him, and Miles became the Spider-Man for his universe. And Miguel did not think that that was how it was supposed to happen. He wanted to just keep his ass in his own universe, so he don't mess with anything else, because he knows this dude is an anomaly, you know. He wasn't supposed to happen. And then it started triggering, like, every Peter Parker that I seen, every Spider-Man that I seen in that movie were other versions of Peter Parkers and Gwen's, and there weren't really other versions of Miles, right? If there was a multiverse, I would assume, you know, there is pigs and other species of Spider-Mans, I guess, but they all have like that Peter Parker reference to their name. Miles Morales is completely different, and I feel like the closest one to him would be Miguel, and hence they both have, you know, Spanish heritage, and their both names starts with M. I don't think that there's any correlation with that, but I'm just saying it's crazy how Miguel would technically still be an anomaly Spider-Man. If you guys look up how his Spider-Man roots came to be, he kind of was like a self-created Spider-Man, but what he did can kind of cause him to be an anomaly. You know, he caused an anomaly, so that's why he's so dedicated and so persistent on making sure that canon things happen. Because otherwise the spider web will crumble, destroying the whole multiverse. Now the reason why I say this is because you know why Miguel was so set on stopping Miles, because he didn't want this to happen, the crumbling of the spider web. But Miles, on the other hand, did not accept the fact that his father had to die as a canon event. So Miles is trying to figure out his own way on how to dodge this canon event. And I feel like this dude Miles is going to know, he knows the Spot's motive, right? He knows his intentions for doing what he's doing. And I feel like if Miles could rewind time, if he can rewind time to where he doesn't get bitten at all, if Miles doesn't become Spider-Man, he would end up fixing his timeline. And then I used to think the Spot was the reason for this. You know, I thought he can throw him back in the timeline where before he got bit, but it does not make sense. But then I thought of Doctor Strange. Now this dude helped Spider-Man before, and this Doctor Strange is connected because you see other versions of Spider-Man also in the show. You know, the realism Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield, but Doctor Strange can also exist in probably another multiverse. Maybe in Spider-Punk, when he gave Gwen his own version of that self-created multiverse, maybe he knows of a Doctor Strange in his realm. But I feel like Miles would try to contact Doctor Strange, and it's so weird because he's not an unknown character in the movie either. As you remember when he was walking with Miguel explaining about the fragility of the Spiderverse, he brought up about the crazy incident with Doctor Strange. He didn't go into detail with it. He was just, don't get me started on what Doctor Strange did, you know. So that dude is real. Like, they're aware of this person. So I feel like Miles could potentially rewind time so he doesn't get back. And I know that is the far-fetched part of my theory, but trust me, just take that in and trust me, the other pieces will fall into place. Now, he also mentioned how the multiverse incident affected them too, based off of his reply on Doctor Strange. Now, another piece of evidence that shows how the MCU is connected to this reality of the Miles Morales movie is how the Spot was traveling through different multiverses and popped his head through a familiar scene that showed a lady working inside a liquor store. That same lady is the lady that was in Eddie Brock's movie Venom 2, in which, you know, she's seen crazy stuff. She's seen Venom bite the guy's head off. She's seen, you know, the aliens. And so seeing a rift open up and some weird creature pop out was no news to her. So, but the crazy thing is that realm is titled Earth 688, right? Earth 688, where Venom, Eddie Brock lives. That's his realm, or that's his universe. So that has to be confirmation that the MCU is somehow connected to the Miles Morales' universe as well. Going over next is Kingpin's Collider. So Kingpin's Collider was, you know, the reason why the multiverse incident happened. Kingpin, if you didn't know, tried to bring back his family from another multiverse so that he can be with them again, but he doesn't know how that thing can't happen. Peter Parker got in the way of this plan, which ended up into the death of, Peter Parker. But Miles Morales was there. Now, if Miles figures out how to revert time so it doesn't make him Spider-Man, that means his Peter Parker will live. That means his dad won't die. So I feel like that's his I'm gonna do my own thing method. The crazy thing is that if Spider-Man lives and Kingpin gets defeated, what does that sound familiar to you? That sounds like a lot like Amazing Spider-Man, the first game. Now, Kingpin loses, Spider-Man wins. If you think about the paradox that we see right here, if Miles has his power, his uncle dies, right? And then his dad is being threatened to also die. But Peter, in his universe, dies as well. If he loses his powers, his uncle lives. If you see in the Spider-Man game, the Prowler is alive, but his dad dies. But Peter is alive. So you see the opportunity cost on both sides of this paradox situation for him. Now, the crazy thing about this theory is that this Miles doesn't know about what Miles go through in the video games. I'm only saying that the video games are predicting the future plans for Miles's actions, right? So the game shows you that if Miles were to sacrifice his Spider-Man interaction, his spider interaction with his uncle under the subway, then the game Amazing Spider-Man, that would be what would happen in his universe. Spider-Man is alive. The crazy thing is, the Web of Destiny seemed to still not be escaped. Now, I looked up the Web of Destiny. Now, they're supposed to always have to be abiding by certain rules for all the Spider-Men in every universe. That's how every Spider-Man is connected. These canon events must happen. Someone of elderly, mentor-ish, person has to have died for every Spider-Man. Via Uncle Ben, maybe Aunt May, maybe even a mentor, just anybody. This can include fathers as well. I would say their Gwen dies. I think they said in every universe the Gwen has to die eventually. You even see Gwen tease this in the second movie when she says, in every movie or every ending, it doesn't end well for Spider-Man and Gwen. But the crazy thing is, Miles Morales isn't Peter Parker. Miles is Miles. So maybe this version of Gwen that we see and this Miles can break that chain of the destiny between the Spider-Man and Gwen. But at the same time, she is confirming that destined the Web of Destiny, like the things that have to happen. The third section of this Web of Destiny rules is that the Spider-Man must meet Venom. Like every Spider-Man is going to meet their Venom. If you think of Penny Parker, I think the girl with the robot, she got that part the bad way when she went back after the first movie. That's why if you look at the comparison of her in the first movie compared to the second movie, it's a little more darker and she looks more stronger, like she went through a lot more because of what happened. If you guys want to know the dark side of that, go ahead and type in her name on Google and read that. It's very sad. But other than that, I'm just saying that Venom interaction is canon for every Spider-Man verse. Now, this is exciting news, especially for the movie industry, because Tom Holland hasn't interacted at all with Venom. But the movies of MCU are creating this playing field to eventually get to this point of the story where Tom Holland is going to meet Venom. And the games that we are playing right now are basically showing you how this could be for Tom Holland. Technically, if Doctor Strange were to rewind time in a multiverse or in a universe, I don't think it would affect the other multiverses. So I still think that would be possible, because I feel like people would say, oh, how can Doctor Strange rewind time if, would that mean everything that happened with Miles will also be rewinded? Or would every multiverse, whatever happened to them, would that also be rewinded? I feel like whatever Miles have done in his life, whatever he has impacted, that section of his actions is going to be rewinded. That's what Doctor Strange is going to do. And I feel like the only universe that could potentially be affected by this rewind would be Earth 42. meaning that he would also end up saving his other multiverse where he becomes the Prowler. And that means the dad in that realm would also be alive because they have a Spider-Man to protect his dad. Do you guys see this? Now, technically, the Collider could still possibly have went bad, but the thing is, the main part of the story is that Miles shouldn't be bitten by the spider. His Peter Parker, or because he got bit, it caused his Peter to die, meaning he was supposed to lose to Kingpin because Miles got bit. So if he dodges that part of his life, then that means no matter what happens, Spider-Man is going to live, which would make the first game canon. Now, moving on to the next thing, I was talking about Venom earlier, and this Venom is like Eddie Brock is helping. He is legit the glue. The symbiote is the glue connecting all of this. Now, Eddie Brock in the second movie, he gets teleported to Tom Holland's universe, right? And he doesn't leave. I think in Spider-Man Far From Home is when he gets sent back to his realm. During that transition of him being warped, that is when a piece of the symbiote was left behind. Now, recently, I think a little after the release trailer of Spider-Man 2, the developers of Insomniac quoted that the Venom suit that Spider-Man is wearing isn't Eddie Brock. Like, Eddie Brock isn't in the game. Now, that's perfect because it confirms that that has to be the piece of the Venom that was left behind by Eddie Brock. Now, Eddie Brock even said it, or I think it was Venom who said it, but if a piece of him separates himself from the main host for too long, that piece of symbiote can technically become its own version of Venom with its own mindset. It can be the more evil Venom, rather the Eddie Brock Venom is more tamed. So it is proven to be true that that piece of symbiote can be existing in Tom Holland's universe. Like, that's a fact. Now, you're probably wondering, where did that piece of symbiote go? Like, who is it? He did leave it, but who picked it up? The game explains who has it. Your boy Osborn picked up the symbiote. Now, if you beat Amazing Spider-Man 1 and the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, you can see that in the post-credit scenes, there's a sequel event happening, right? Harry is being he's being held in a chamber or some type of, self-regenerating machine. I forgot what we call those. The thing that Goku is in on Namek. Harry is in one because of his family's inherited disease. He's using the Venom symbiote to kind of like, I don't know his main motive, but we know his father does have Harry connected to the symbiote that he found. My friend, when I did tell about my theory, he did brought up to the fact of how the Avengers Tower is existing, and in the movie they don't have the tower there no more. We kind of helped debunk that argument by saying that Oscorp eventually buys that building, and that building would become, the building where they host the science center, right? Where Miles might meet Peter when Peter was walking with Dr. Ock. If you're not familiar with this scene that I just said, it was a cutscene in the Miles Morales game, which explains like Miles's first interaction with Peter Parker. It was at a fair where, the same lab where Peter got bit, I feel, is the same lab Miles got bit. Now I'm going too far. So going back to my theory of how saying that the games predict the future movies, mainly the Tom Holland series of that, that Spider-Man, that would be saying that the placement and the timing of the situation and the events that are happening makes sense. Tom Holland has not met Venom yet, but the time frame works. More importantly, to introduce Miles Morales into Tom Holland's universe. And I feel like that's what they're going to do. And the way that they're going to portray these stories and the movies are going to be similar in how the Amazing Spider-Man 1 game and the Miles Morales game and potentially Spider-Man 2 game will play out. Those are like legit the future versions of the movies we might get with the star playing as Tom Holland. That would make his appearance with Tom Holland make sense, because if you go back to the first movie of Tom Holland, you've seen a familiar actor talking to Tom Holland saying that his nephew is planning on enrolling into the school soon. The school that Tom Holland was at currently was a high school. So right now we look at Tom Holland, he's potentially going to college, right? That would make sense for Miles Morales to be entering into high school. Now, this is also supporting the Donald Glover connection. If you look at the Miles Morales multiverse movie, Donald Glover was portrayed as the Prowler. They didn't tell us he was a Prowler in the Tom Holland movie, but now we can kind of confirm it that that was the Prowler, meaning that that nephew has to be Miles Morales entering the school for Tom Holland. Tom Holland doesn't, and he shouldn't really meet friends or meet Harry until he gets to college, which is the perfect time setup right now. Because remember, at the end of that movie, what were they doing? They were all stressing about getting accepted into different colleges, right? That is the time zone. If you look at Tobey Maguire, when they became friends, they were friends during college. So I think when Tom Holland, when they make these movies of him going to college, we're going to start seeing the introduction of Harry, the introduction of his version of Osborn. That means his version of Green Goblin is going to start making an appearance. But it also is also showing you the new timeline that Miles has created for himself. There's still a paradox, you know, with the winnings that he have gained. There's still certain versions of losses he have taken. You know, his dad still dies now, and but Peter is alive. He was failing classes in the movie, but if you look at Miles Morales in the games, he's passing his classes. He's winning science fairs. So he's like able to live a happier life. So it was like, it's perfect for Miles to kind of reset his life, because the way that they're going to have the movies is like, I feel like they're going to play with our emotions, right? They're going to make us sad, say like, oh, Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man anymore. That like, we never seen a movie where Spider-Man loses his powers like that. I mean, I have in the second one, I think, with Tobey Maguire, but this will be sad. You know, Miles is our boy, so it will be a sad moment, but then they can bring it back and have him get his powers back the video game canon way. You know, if you look up how Miles got his powers in the games, he got bitten by the same type of spider from the same laboratory that bit Peter Parker. And if that is the way Miles becomes Spider-Man, that would balance out his multiverse problem, because the spider didn't come from a different dimension and made Miles Morales his powers. It came from his own universe, meaning that nothing could have upset it or unbalanced anything else. So it would be a perfect plan for Miles to do to fix the Spiderverse problem he's experiencing now. The sad thing is that Miles is doing all this to make sure his dad doesn't die, but in the end his dad is still going to die. But at least his Spider-Man is going to be alive to help him face the future threats that my theory is also going to be supporting. There is a leaked picture for Spider-Man 2 that shows Miles Morales in high school dodging what seems to be a green goblin glider. Now I'm not familiar with the color right now, but if it's purple, then it could be potentially the Prowler trying to hunt him down. But if it's not purple, then it's possibly Tom Holland's best friend that is, you know, set to be the next villain, because Tom Holland wished for everybody to forget who Spider-Man was, right? His identity was revealed by Mysterio. He asked Doctor Strange to kind of fix that, and Doctor Strange did his magic, but then that probably impacted his best friend's view on Spider-Man. I don't know what's going to happen to his best friend that's going to turn him into a villain, but it would be perfect sense for his best friend to attack Miles while Peter Parker is handling his problems with Harry, because Harry has the Venom suit. Now I feel like that is the perfect setup for this Spider-Man 2 game, but also I feel like the Tom Holland movies are eventually going to get to this point. Now Miles' dad would still die. I feel like having that happen would be perfect sense, because it shows you that you cannot escape the web of destiny, right? That's when I was talking to you about the 3 mandatory canon events that has to happen for each Spider-Man. Now it would make sense for Miles to lose his father, right? Because that checks off the losing an elderly mentor person. In the game, he lost his best friend, right? So if they have him rewind time and he doesn't go out with that version of Gwen, they might find a new girl for him, but that girl would die for him, right? Just like the games, and that would be his Gwen sacrifice. And then finally we get to the last one, which is Venom. And I feel like that would be canon for the Tom Holland and the Miles, all because of Eddie Brock, right? All because of Harry. Even in the second movie, you see Miles' best friend kind of teasing off the Spider-Man gameplay in his dorm room. I feel like personally that was like a little Stan Lee Easter egg that Insomniac wanted to throw in there. I don't feel like there's really any real connections to that scene other than it was just like a funny Easter egg to the video games. But the video games are legit multiverses. If you look at the alternate costumes of the different Spider-Mans, they represent different multiverses of Spider-Man. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that these games are portraying what the future movies of Spider-Man games, or the future movies of Spider-Man can be. Mostly Tom Holland. That's what I'm focusing on because it makes sense. Now, if we go back to the Web of Destiny, right? Here's the cherry on top of my theory. You guys, I don't know if half of you guys are in disbelief of my theory, if half of you guys are supporting me at this point, but this point in my theory is the cherry on top. The villain that you've seen in the movie was the Hunter, right? The Hunter is also the main villain of Spider-Man 2. Now, the crazy thing, and you guys can look this up, is that the Hunter, Morbius, and Venom, Eddie Brock's Venom, are all part of the same universe. They're all from Earth 688. And the only thing that's missing from that universe is what? A hero. There's no superheroes in these realms, and they can possibly be due to an anomaly that was interacted by Spider-Man, you know? One of the actions probably caused this realm, this Earth, to not have their Spider-Man. Luckily, they got your boy Eddie Brock, but it's crazy to see how these things are coming together. Why does Kraven, why is he in the same realm as Spider-Man, right? Only one explanation, and that is with the multiverse collider, or either A, he broke out of that prison that he was captured from the movie and is hunting down the spiders. He's hunting down the heroes, and it is a perfect setup for the Tom Holland movies because the trailer just dropped for Kraven. Coincidentally, the trailer just dropped for Kraven, and Kraven, it tells you how he gets his abilities, it tells you his drive, his purpose, his personality, and even in the scene there is a little teaser of a bunch of spider webs falling down, showing you that there could be the future interaction of Kraven meeting Spider-Man, and they can potentially have this meeting with Kraven entering into the same universe as the Tom Holland one. So it's perfect. It's a perfect setup for the Spider-Man games to be showing us this, because it makes sense for Tom Holland's universe to follow in the same direction. If you look at the Morbius movie, I think a section of that movie, the Vulture ended up coming through that portal. You know, if you look at the Far From Home movie, they had the Dr. Ock from Tobey Maguire's movie appear in Tom Holland's universe. The Electro from Andrew Garfield appeared into Tom Holland's universe. So I find it perfect sense, and it's in the perfect space to assume that Kraven could have been another one of those affected villains that put them into Tom Holland's universe. You know, going back, that also explains why Eddie Brock was also displaced and put into Tom Holland's universe, leaving behind that symbiote. So the video games are showing you what happens to Spider-Man and Miles, all due to that left symbiote. Now, we don't know where the symbiote came from in the game, but it would be cool if they connected the symbiote being left behind from Eddie Brock for the Tom Holland movies, and Osborn picking up that symbiote just like he does in the game, using it to heal Harry because of Harry's disease due to their family's inheritance. It would also make sense for Tom Holland to fight his version of the Batman, right? Or his version of Green Goblin. He was so pissed for Tobey Maguire's Green Goblin to kill his Aunt May, right? So imagine him actually meeting his own version of Green Goblin. That is going to connect so good, because people, just like how Andrew Garfield looked into the eyes of Zendaya, we knew that he was referencing the Gwen moment. We can probably have another moment of Tom Holland looking into the eyes of his version of Green Goblin, referencing the same when he looked into the old version of Green Goblin after killing his aunt. So I see MCU, I see these movies, I see how they could potentially do these setups and these emotional pathos inventions for these future films if this theory is correct. Now, I'm almost done. Another movie that is potentially releasing next year is also called Madam Web. Now, Madam Web is one of the ladies that she's like the Doctor Strange version of all the Spider-Mans. So she can potentially see the future. She can read people. She can sense if you have, you know, supernatural abilities. And I'm not sure about like all of her. I'm not too familiar with her, but I just know she's the GOAT. And I feel like them dropping this movie could also explain how she could be connected to this whole theory. She's able to see the future. Maybe Spider-Punk could take Gwen or Miles Morales to her. Maybe she might have a role in the second half of these multiverse movies. We won't know, but we just know that she is also getting a movie next month or next year, and she is very connected to the Web of Destiny. She's very connected to the Spider-Verse. So it will be interesting to see how she can play a part into Miles's problem. If you look at Prowler's technology, right? If you look at the Earth 42 version of Miles Morales and you look at his new suit, that technology isn't unknown. We've seen that somewhere, but where? We've seen it in the Miles Morales game called Nanofurum that was created by him and his best friend, as well as, you know, some help with his uncle. So it is so cool how that Nanofurum is still typically canon for Miles Morales, meaning that that girl can still pop up in his life if they do want to rewind time. You know, that can still be his Gwen. Or hey, I would not be hating if Miles went to that Gwen. You know, this Gwen I like, but I don't know if I can accept Miles just having this be his Gwen, but it'll be okay. No matter how they do this, just know that I feel like the video games that we are playing are potentially the future movies that we're going to see with Tom Holland and whatever actor they choose for Miles Morales. You know, the conflicts that they are going through in the video games could be the same conflicts that Tom Holland is going to be introduced to Venom, introduced to Harry, introduced to Miles. You know, if you're curious in how Miles and Peter are going to, you know, become best friends, just play the games. Knowing, like, if you were Doctor Strange and you thought about his plan, like, oh yeah, if you rewind time and you don't get bit by the spider, and the Spiderverse is kind of just as important as our multiverse, I can see that as, you know, helping fix your problem. Like, it would be justified somehow. So if it's too far-fetched, please let me know in the comments below. But I feel like if this is their plan, be prepared for a lot of emotional damage on the way. Let me know what you guys think about my theory. Yeah, short version, I think the video games are the future versions of Tom Holland movies that we can see in the future. And yeah, if you have any other supporting claims against or for this theory, please type them. I am also curious on your guys' thoughts and opinions on how the Spider-Verse is all connected with MCU. And I'll see you guys next time. If you guys like more videos like this, or if maybe they might drop more trailers that can expose and help support this theory even further, I'll post an updated version of this video. But for the most part, this video is already long enough. I hope you guys weren't asleep, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching all the way through, and peace.